fired up. It's made a great decision.
Great teammates, coaches, and other people who want to be Super Bowl champions. And we are. We're going to do it this year.
And we're going places because we want to go places.
Touchdown, Detroit Lions!
Before long, we're going to be the last one standing.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. In today's video, we are back with another All-22 look at the Detroit Lions. And today, we are diving into the defensive side of the ball against the Green Bay Packers, where the Lions held the Packers under 10 points and forced 3 turnovers on Aaron Rodgers in this game. That's basically unheard of. This was just days after firing defensive backs coach Aubrey Pleasant, and the Lions defense, in a way, got back on track. Aaron Rodgers in this game was 23 for 43, nearly 300 yards passing and a passing touchdown, but he also had 3 interceptions and finished with a 25 quarterback rating. And as we said, they scored less than 10 points. They had opportunities to score a lot more than that, but they scored less than 10, and that's the game of football, right? Showing up in the red zone and on third down. Now, unfortunately, the Lions were still not great on third down. They still allowed over 50% conversion rate, which is still needs to get much better. 8 for 15 was Green Bay. The good thing is that towards the end of this game, the Lions got off the field, or not even got off the field. They just didn't allow third down conversions, okay, because they also went forward on fourth down. They got that stop as well. When the Lions needed to down the stretch, they got the stops. They got the stops at the 1-yard line. However, there was too many third down chunks that were allowed. Too many third and longs, 3rd and 17, 3rd and 18, 3rd and 10 that were allowed in this game. We'll take a look at a few of those as well. But before we get into this, I got to ask a very important question. Does this look cool? I don't need to say nothing. It doesn't look cool. I get it. Okay. It just feels a little weird. I got a lot of hair going on right now. I need a haircut. So it just feels a little weird with the hat this way. But it's cool, man. There was definitely grit in this game for the Lions. And we were saying it on the live stream from this game. Hey, Lions defense, you deserve to make this stop. And really, I felt like the defense needed to be the side to win this football game. I mean, it did. It just needed to go out there and close it off on their terms to just get right. Confidence builder. You got different personnel in this game, and it's just the stars kind of aligned for the defense, and they needed this one. I feel like they really needed to win this way because over the last year and a half, counting this year as a half so far, defensively the Lions haven't made those plays to win games very often. Rarely they've made those plays, and this time they kind of finally hopefully turned the page in terms of like, look, we're not going to be great defensively. We understand that. There's areas we have to be better, and there's areas of personnel that need to improve, but when we need it most, can we show up and get off the field? And if you think back to last season, right, a lot of these young guys that were getting opportunities on the field, the idea was young, they're making some of these mistakes now, but it's good for these guys to be in these moments because when they're going to be put in these big moments next season, which is this season, they're going to be ready, they're going to be prepared, and they're going to make that play. There's not going to be those breakdowns. You think of a guy like Jerry Jacobs specifically. He was targeted a couple of times towards the end of that game. Last season, he was in these big moments due to injuries, and this game, he showed up. So that was great. We're going to take a look at those. And then also new additions like Kerby Joseph. He showed up. CJ Moore, he showed up. Think about CJ Moore last season. Didn't play a ton of snaps. Kerby Joseph was injured in this game. And towards the end, he made a huge play breaking up a touchdown pass from Aaron Rodgers. You think about last year, he played in week 17. I think that's where he had his most snaps for us. I liked how he played, but it was a very small sample size last season. But when we needed it most, he made the play. All right, Jeff Okudah, good coverage on the final play. So we'll take a look at all of that. Charles Harris, we'll take a look at all of it. Y'all will get what I'm saying. But the point is, we're going to dive into this defensively. Now, run defense was better. Okay, it was better. We didn't allow a massive run, really, aside from the scrambles from Aaron Rodgers, but for the running backs, there wasn't a big chunk. Now, each running back, A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones both had a 9-yard run, which was their longest, and Kylan Hill, I think he only ran the ball one time. He had a 7-yard run. So those were chunks, but they didn't have a huge run that broke the game open like we've had, where 50, 40-yard runs that are just killers defensively. We didn't have that, and I thought we dialed in for stretches there as you looked at 2 running backs, A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones, both in this game, were not great rushing the football. Okay, A.J. Dillon was 11 carries for 34 yards. That's not great, okay? And then also Aaron Jones was 9 carries for 25 yards. He went out towards the end there, but that's not fantastic either. So the Lions locked in that area as well, and Green Bay coming into this ran the ball pretty well. So with that, let's dive into this. Let's take a look at some defense. Let's start with the second play of the game. Now, first thing we do have to point out is the personnel. I love the way the Lions changed up the personnel for this one specifically. First off, Will Will Harris, he played in the slot in this game. Mike Hughes got the start on the outside, and he continued to rotate in. He didn't just start and then lose his role to Jacobs, and that was it. He actually came back into the game. We saw him on certain situations, like a 2-point conversion try. He came back into the game. He mixed in for Jeff and for Jerry, and I think that's how it has to look going forward. I assume Jerry will start, and so will Jeff, but Mike Hughes should be on their heels, like, hey, look, if they're not playing very well, I can step in. This should be a guy that's pushing them, and as we saw, he looked pretty good on the outside, as Dan Campbell said. Now, I won't go down that rabbit hole, but yes, we saw him play well on the outside against New England, and that's what he did in Kansas City when he came here. So I'm just glad that he got his opportunity. Will Harris in the slot. The first play that I want to take a look at is about Will Harris, and this is a cover 3 look. Now, what was cool is that the Lions did a lot of similar things that we saw them do last year. A lot of it was, the shell coverage, 2 deep safeties. They did a lot of that, but in this case, we start off with a cover 3 drop, which we've seen from the Lions a pretty good amount so far this season. Here with DeShon Elliott coming down in this sky coverage, but it's about Will Harris to me on this play. So you get the boot play action here from Aaron Rodgers. Mike Hughes, of course, on the outside does a pretty good job here, and then it's Will Harris dropping to get depth, taking away the crossing route, and forcing Rodgers to go elsewhere with this ball. You got Okudah here one-on-one, and then, of course, Mike Hughes deep with safety help. But that one was good coverage, good way to start off for Will, who I thought had a pretty good day. It definitely wasn't perfect. He's not a slot cornerback. That's not what he was drafted as. We know that he's a safety, but you really couldn't tell. He kind of held his own. It wasn't a perfect game, but he held his own at the slot position, and that was a good start. Let's talk about DeShon Elliott. We love the seatbelt. Everybody loves the seatbelt. I do think the Jerry Jacobs energy is real because, the first celebration you got from the Lions defensive back was the seatbelt, and it was DeShon Elliott. And this is something that's also pretty cool as well, is their trust to put him in these spots. Now, Kerby Joseph sometimes mans up. He plays a lot of deep safety for us, which makes sense. That's kind of where he's at his best. But Elliott, with his physicality, the Lions trust him to match up here on slot receivers. They did this later in the game. Not all situations, but they trust him to do it. In this case, you get the 12 personnel look, which we'll see later. And what did the Lions do to combat that? They put front seven players out there, 2 off-ball linebackers, 5 guys across the front, and of course they have Mike Hughes lined up on the tight end, and then Julian Okwara forcing it back in as well as Hutchinson. That's kind of the new thing they've done in the front. But to keep one safety deep and not play zero coverage, they end up putting one of their safeties, in this case DeShon Elliott, in man coverage on the slot receiver. And here you get 2 pulling offensive linemen. I think this may have been just a design play action. It could be an RPO. It didn't look like the offensive lineman went upfield. But just watch Elliott play this like a cornerback. He does not look out of place at all playing this. On the break, boom, there's the break. Watch him shoot down, play through the ball, and make a play and break it up. And then here comes the seatbelt. You love that, man. I'm such a fan of DeShon, okay? Man, I really am. And the versatility is real, and I think he's improved as years went on in that category. Lions played a lot of man coverage on the 3rd and long situations. And in this case, the Lions did a lot of the cover 1 robbers where they would rob a safety down, sometimes just 2 deep, 2-man coverage. On this play, though, you're going to get DeShon Elliott, who's kind of going to roll down a little bit. Our slot cornerbacks playing outside leverage, kind of funneling it back inside. You got Mike Hughes and Jeff Okudah. Let's start with Mike first. And this is where Mike kind of separates himself a little bit on the outside. In the slot, not as much because the receivers that he faced have a similar skill set. They're lower to the ground. They're quicker. They have quick feet. But on the outside, he can separate himself a little bit, and he kind of uses that to his advantage. He may not have the size as most outside receivers do, but he has the feet that are usually better than receivers on the outside. And here's a perfect example. I think this is Sammy Watkins. Just look at the feet on this play to stay in front. The stab on point. He looked really good there, man. Mike Hughes has very good feet for an outside cornerback. And then on the opposite side, you have Jeff Okudah, who's going to give you the jam right there off the line and then play underneath this in coverage, not overreact. I love how he does that. Sits underneath that dig route with the safety help on top. And then, of course, Will Harris in the slot here. He's going to get safety help from Kerby Joseph. Now, what goes wrong here is that Aaron Rodgers takes off. The Lions do a little bit of a game on the front. Alex Anzalone is going to be taken out by the tight end on this play, who chip flats. So then you get Aiden Hutchinson basically 2-on-1, and he's the guy that actually still gets pressure on this one. Hutchinson had a lot of pass rush wins. Just difficult to get sacks on Rodgers. Really, the way that you get sacks on Aaron Rodgers is not a lot of times through man coverage. It's usually some sort of disguised zone where he gets past his first read. But with that, Derek Barnes takes the running back, who had a good game as well. We'll talk about it. Alex takes the tight end. Now you have 4 rushers on this play. And the Lions do a little game here, a little stunt with Josh Paschal and also with John Kaminsky. You could see it leaves a huge open lane as Aiden Hutchinson attacks outside of the offensive tackle and the tight end. We'll see that. This play is glitching a little bit, but you'll see it right here. Boom, there's the chip. And then they run this little game inside where Pascal kind of stunts around, but then it leaves this huge open lane. Pascal gets kind of walled up there, or excuse me, Kaminsky gets kind of walled up, and now Rodgers can take off and there's no one in the back end. So we'll see how they adapt to that and how they react to it in some more upcoming plays, but that was not ideal. But I will showcase Hutchinson here because, yeah, what I'm liking about Hutch is he had a lot of ways to win coming out of college, but I would give credit to Todd Walsh, like the spin move. I've seen that a few times back in college, but he is showing so much diversity in his pass rush ability to win so many different ways. It's exciting. It's exciting to think about this dude's potential going forward and what he's going to become. But even now, he's balling for us. So that's the first one. This one's interesting. It looks like they get us in a little bit of a conflict. So let's pause it real quick. All right, so you're going to get this fast motion from the Packers. They pick up 19 yards. We'll take a look at how this happens. So fast motion. Okay, first off, they're playing man coverage defensively. So you would think Mike Hughes has Lazard here, and then it's Will Harris in the slot, and then Jeff Okudah. You know, like the matchups are what they are pre-snap. But then the fast motion shifts those matchups. So now Mike Hughes is going to take this outside receiver. Good job by them, you know, understanding where to go there. He takes the outside receiver. Will Harris takes Aaron Jones out of the backfield. A.J. Dillon shows blocks, so no one actually covers him. Jeff Okudah then takes Alan Lazard in this fast motion outside. Now that shifts the responsibility for Deshaun Elliott onto the tight end, who runs a crosser, and it puts a weird conflict on Derek Barnes. And also because of how the timing works of the route, you're going to see that Kerby Joseph has so much depth, he can't really shoot down and cut that off. He may have been able to late in the play and try to, but he didn't. He just stayed on top, and I think that's a lot of the time you could see Christian Watson immediately with his speed gets vertical on this one. So now now Kerby Joseph is dropping it in depth. So now it kind of takes him out of the play to help on this drag route. Deshaun Elliott, the safety, is late on this one, as we're going to see. And then it puts Derek Barnes in a weird spot. We'll take a look at that. So here we go. There's the fast motion. Switches off. Jeff takes it. Here's Elliott. He's a little bit late. Kind of gives up the opening there. And now he's trailing it. Now Derek Barnes, which you may have missed there. Derek Barnes is going to peek back. And I think he sees this route dragging right behind him. So he has a decision to make. Do I drop back and try to cut this off? Or do I race down and try to cut off the quarterback to force him to get rid of the football? Hutchinson crashes down but then gets back outside to try to contain. And you're going to see it right here. You see him peek back. I don't know if he saw the tight end. I would assume that he did. Maybe he didn't see anything. You can see his line of vision. He may have turned back and said, I don't see anything, so I'm coming downhill. That could have been the issue. If he would have turned and actually saw the tight end because of where he's at, he may have said, I'm going to drop, get depth, and take this away. But he may not actually be able to see the tight end from where he's going. So he's like, all right, I'm going to go get him. But then, as we see, as Rodgers goes to throw it, now he's like, oh, turn back. And he's like, oh, there was a guy there. So could have been that, or he could have made a decision just to crash down. I would think if you would see it, you would just back up. But you could see how that created a little bit of an issue. And they picked up 19 there to our 5. Thing is, the very next play, the Lions picked it off. So red zone, third downs, we talk about that. We know the Lions defense is going to be great, but they got to be good situationally. This one looks like more of an offensive issue than anything. You got Will in the slot, Mike Hughes on the outside. Again, later in the game, they put Mike Hughes in. Jerry will come in soon. I like the spot that Will Harris is actually in here. I feel like he's in a really good position to play through the ball, but this one is just bounced off Derek Barnes, tipped up in the air, and I love how Kerby Joseph attacks this thing because initially he was jumping downhill for the run, but he gets back into the play, attacks it like Okudah does as well, and he picks it off and makes a huge play. That one was just a little bit of a mistake by the offense. But anyway, still a good play. Got to take advantage of those because we know in the past, ball's been tipped up and then it falls incomplete. And we're just like, oh my goodness. And of course, you score when you miss an opportunity. There they made the opportunity and we get the ball back. Now, Lions did this a lot. Here's another third and long situation for the Packers. Lions did this a lot. They would spread us out. They'd go empty. So you have Jeff Okudah now in the slot, and you have Will Harris in the slot on Watson and Lazard here. Now, he likes to go to Lazard one-on-one. The Lions are going to rob down their safety, Deshaun Elliott, who's going to help out on the outside leverage here that we're giving with Will Harris in the slot, and that makes it a one-on-one for Jeff Okudah. Now, they're going to hit us with this exact same route, basically, I think, later in the game on Will Harris, and Will Harris is going to break it up on a fourth down. In this play, Jeff Okudah is actually in a better spot as he's trying to force this thing back inside. He's actually in a better spot on top of the route. But again, we talk about at the catch point here is where the issue comes into play. He's on top of the route. He squeezes there, turns his head around. But as you can see, loses some balance kind of moving this way. It looks very similar to the Niners play to open last season. Loses balance. He won the flag. He didn't get it. And he goes down. They pick up a huge chunk. In a good spot, but he's got to make a play on the football. Then on top of that, we have to give credit to Will Harris because this is something that probably won't be looked at, but of course we look at the run stops. Look at Will Harris. If Will Harris just gives up on this play, which he easily could just let him run in there, and also Kerby Joseph battling, which helps him. If these guys give up on the play, this is a touchdown and we don't even get the stop, but it's huge. They keep battling. So Kerby Joseph battles over here to help on this play, and Will Harris turns it on, sprints, and brings him down at the 1 yard line. Great effort. That was a huge stop because, as we know, they didn't end up scoring on this drive. So let's take a look at how that did not happen. Let's run stuff that we have. This one, and let's do this real quick. The guy that, obviously, Derek Barnes, he had a great game. He had 12 total tackles. We're going to see a lot of Barnes today. But the guy that I think needs to get a lot of credit down here on this goal line stand is Isaiah Buggs, number 98. So he was facing a backup most of the time, right guard Zach Tom, which is, as you know, coming out of college, undersized tackle. He played tackle and center, did not play guard, I don't believe, coming out of college. So this was a matchup that you look at on paper and you're saying, okay, Isaiah Buggs, like 330 pounds, you should win this battle. You should dominate this battle. And that's exactly what he did. And he set up everything off of that, even on the 4th down play. Let's take a look at this first one, this run stop that we have that breaks to the outside by Derek Barnes and Kerby Joseph. And what happens on this first run stop? Well, before it's outside, let's take a look. So you have Benito Jones on the interior here, who actually has made some good explosive plays in the backfield, but the pass rush hasn't been there as consistent as you would like. There was a couple, but not as consistent as you would like. But regardless, here we go. We got Benito Jones in this A-gap, boom. And then you have Isaiah Buggs, who immediately sheds Zach Tom, immediately sheds him. Now, this was the matchup he was getting. He was getting head up with Zach Tom. The next time you're going to see him just basically bowl him into the backfield. This time, it's an immediate shed. So A-gap is filled by Benito here. Then it's an immediate shed. Now, it looks like Derek Barnes is actually responsible for filling this B-gap, the left side B-gap on this play. You're going to see his first step go here. And then, as we see, let's take a look. Boom. First step is there. First look is there. And with the shed, it forces Dylan to bounce. So because of how they were creating this run play, they were trying to slam this thing right up here in this A-gap. So now he bounces outside because of this shed. There's nowhere to go there. And then Kerby Joseph helps, gets low, and Barnes cleans it up over top to shut down the first run. That moves us to second down. Second down, they were not on the same page, clearly. Rodgers threw, I think, a fade, and the receiver ran a slant, so now it's 3rd and goal. So that was a mistake, but it's okay. Take advantage of it. We still got to get a run stop. Take a look at this one. All right, let's keep it going. 2 guys, again, Benito Jones and Isaiah Buggs make some plays here. And now, interestingly enough, what I do like is they're putting all 3 guys out there. They're saying, look, Benito, get inside, get penetration, and Ali McNeil, we're going to have you work outside a little bit more at like a 4-eye on this play. But let's take a look. So first off, first thing you get, which you got to see, is Benito Jones, explosive, immediately beats the center, immediately wins his gap with the shed and gets penetration. But to me, it's Isaiah Buggs who makes this play. Takes up 2 gaps with this one. So Derek Barnes is going to fill the A gap. Look at him just basically play. Look at this. He's putting Zach Tom a yard behind the line of scrimmage. He's playing Zach Tom a yard behind the line of scrimmage. He's not being moved. He's basically taking up 2 gaps on this play against a guy that he completely outmatches. And there's no like leverage created by the offensive lineman for a seam for the running back. So now that he's basically walling up one guy and just look at this, just taking Zach Tom wherever. Hey, if he goes this way, I got him. If he goes this way, I got him. Now Derek Barnes has a clean path to break through, and Benito Jones, his penetration through his gap, leaves an open lane where Derek Barnes can just sprint through there and make a beautiful tackle. But man, I look at both those guys, Jones and Buggs, dominating as he gives them, and that's good timing for that Benito, because you did dominate that matchup. So now it's 4th and goal. Now, of course, this was the awesome interception by Hutchinson. But again, the guy that you got to give credit to me, is Benito Jones, and you're going to see why. So it's a beautiful interception, right? Going upfield. It's clearly underthrown. Throwing to Bakhtiari here, and it's a great athletic play to come down with that. Awesome play by Aiden Hutchinson. But let's take a look at who gets in Rodgers' face immediately. Also, pretty good coverage elsewhere as well. No one was really open, but that's where the play was designed to go. Isaiah Buggs immediately sheds here. Look, boom, he's immediately through the gap. So you're not really getting touched. On this zone blocking look from the offensive line, there is no contact. They don't push him off to the side. He splits through immediately. There's not much touch there, and now he's into the backfield, and he's in the face of Rodgers. I think it does cause a little bit of an underthrow off his back foot, and it's picked off. So I understand Hutchinson made a fantastic play. That's a top pick type of play. We know Hutchinson's a dog, and you're going to see a lot of that. But we also know that Isaiah Buggs made a heck of a play on this one to get back there and penetrate the backfield and help lead to that interception. That was awesome. So here we go. Now this play, you will get a little Benito Jones bull rush. Here he is working inside of the center and the guard here. So let's take a look. Now again, same look that we got earlier, right? 12 personnel, 2 tight ends. Lines go 5-man front, outside Julian, outside Hutchinson, and then you have Jeff Okudah across from the tight end, as we've seen. So let's take a look. What are they doing again? Elliott's going to press up on their slot Sammy Watkins. That's a lot of trust. Let's first start there. This is man coverage across the board. You're going to get a one-on-one. He's going to run a flat route, so not really much going on. So they single out Jerry Jacobs, as if they were going to take advantage of this dude one-on-one. Okay, well, let's take a look at how that works. So, Jerry Jacobs, now he's not the biggest corner, doesn't have the best length, very more on the shorter side. You can just see how he matches up with the guys. He looks like a slot cornerback. He looks like a big slot corner, like a thick slot corner. That's what he looks like. Well, let's take a look at him here. So, we know he likes to be physical off the line. Let's take a look at this little, you see that little push off at the top of the route? Now, guys get away with this. Good receivers do that. They get away with it, and that's what you see a little bit of there. But in this case, for a guy that's 6'3", that's super long, this may not even affect him because he's still in the way. For Jerry, that can be an issue. But what you like about Jerry is he doesn't try to flip his head around. He plays through the receiver, regains that connection with the receiver, and just plays right through the ball. Never turns his head around, plays right through it, breaks it up, and then brings out the seatbelt. I love it, Jerry. Hey, what was he saying? Don't test me. I told Rodgers not to test me. Shout out to Rad. I think he sent me that. Don't test that man. He has been a game changer for us. And you see Benito with the push there. He's been a game changer for us because you don't want to test him. He brings the energy, which I think everybody feeds off of. Why Elliott brought out the seatbelt the third play of the game. All right. And at the same time, he's physical. He's physical. He brings that mentality. You don't want to throw screens his direction. You don't want to run his direction. He has been huge for us going back to last year, and that was a great play. He has weaknesses. He has areas where he's not great, but that was a good play. And just understanding what he's good and not good at, playing through the ball. I don't need to find football. Just go break it up. And that's what he's done. He hasn't had a pick with us, but he's had a lot of pass breakups going back to last year. Look at this one, because I want to show you this because you're going to get a very similar look a little bit later in the game, and I want to show you how Will Harris reacts to this later in the game. So this is what the Packers would do. Now, the Packers, they do a lot of this. We know they're an underneath team. They like to throw underneath passes. They get the ball quick. It's hard to sack Rodgers because of that. The time to throw is very quick on a lot of these situations. So here's a third down. Now, what they're going to do is they're going to go 3 receivers to the left. So they're actually putting Watson here in the slot. They're going to run him on the flat, they're going to block, they're going to set up a screen here. Now, the issue that it causes, and we'll see this later in the game, is the Lions can disguise out of this, but in this case, they're manned up. So Kerby has the inside slot, Will here, and then Jacobs here. What they do, what the issue that it causes is a lot of ground for the Kerby Joseph to cover, and you're basically creating a 2-on-3. If you can block him up, you're going to have a first down on a 3rd and short, and that's what they get here. Now, watch Will Harris. He starts to creep inside pre-snap. You see how he starts to creep inside? He creeps inside, and he can't really get out enough on this play. He's still an opportunity to make a tackle there, but it's a weird angle, and they give up just enough for the first down. But you're going to see later in the game, after having had this happen, how he plays it differently, and he ends up making the play a little bit later, and you can see how that play design gives him an issue. One thing that we know about Malcolm is that he doesn't have the longest arms. He's really good at playing between the tackles for a guy his size. He doesn't stack and shed all the time, but he can avoid guys. He's really good at that. This play, we give up 7 yards on this run. I want to show this because there's a play later where Derek Barnes had a fantastic game, so I want to show it off. We will here. But you see him fill, and then he's going to kind of slide, duck underneath, avoid the block, but he can't get his arm out there and make the play on this. Now, he was already injured, so he already went out. He looks a little shaken up already, but you can see they give up 7 yards to here. Malcolm's really good at playing between the tackles for guys at his size you wouldn't expect at all. That was huge for him coming out of Oklahoma State. But I want to show you that because you're going to see how Derek Barnes and how he was playing and how well he was playing against the run. That's basically what I'm trying to say. To get to that, let's take a look at a pass defense play. So this is what I talk about. Lions did a lot of things that we saw them do last year. So basically you get a 3-deep look here because you're going to go Tampa 2 coverage with Derek Barnes. Now they covered this up initially. Also, the guy that gets the pressure is of course Hutchinson. Unfortunately, we just don't get really pressure anywhere else. So what you see here, Tampa 2 look, Derek's going to drop middle, and what we've said before is there's certain situations you want to put Barnes in, and in zone, moving side to side isn't always ideal. However, you move him in a straight line, he's got enough speed to usually run with guys, and the Lions did this last season. When they got to, when Green Bay was at like our 30, they like to do this because then there's only so much field, but at the same time, he has that speed to just turn and run. So that's what they do here. They're going to drop into a Tampa 2 look. Derek Barnes is going to run up the seam here with the tight end. Now, initially, the Lions actually covered this up. There would be nowhere for Rodgers to throw this football. It was well covered. It wasn't we had a breakdown in coverage. It's the fact that the play extended and then it created space. Let's take a look at why. So first off, Aaron Rodgers' eyes are going to work up the seam, and you got, again, 2 deep, 3 deep basically. So these safeties are a little bit more spread out. As he works up the seam and Rodgers looks there, Deshaun Elliott's going to start to bite inside on this seam right upfield. Now, that is kind of the issue, but not really the issue because this would be covered up well. Look at the depth that Jacobs has between, the under-over kind of concept they have against the zone coverage. They have the same thing going here. They're both in a pretty good spot. Specifically on this side, there's not really any room to throw this football. Now, Julian's on this side, so it's a little bit less, right? But on Alex and Jerry Jacobs' size, you know, we know he's a little bit undersized, but that's not actually the issue that takes place here. He's in a really good spot defensively, but when Rodgers steps up to throw, that's when it becomes an issue, because now Elliott is dropping so deep with the seam route. He extends the play. Now there's no one deep to kind of collapsed it inside in this zone defense, and now there's the hole in the zone. So that's what caused the issue there, and as you see, they pick up 25 yards. But they covered it well initially, which is good. That's what the secondary is supposed to do, so give them credit for that. Let's take a look at Hutchinson here. Just with the hand swipe, we see that all the time from him. Bugs also tries to win that way, so it creates a little bit of a hole, and they pick up a first down. That's something the Lions still got to get better as rush lanes, because if you're not going to get there, when rush lanes break down, then you got problems. And I just kind of want to show a similar type of thing, but just kind of the difference about how well Barnes was actually playing the run. What I like is that he's still playing fast. And we saw this preseason. Barnes plays fast, but in the preseason, there was a lot of times where he was just kind of like attack, and it was like, wait, is he really supposed to be filling there? And he looked a little bit out of control, right? He did. He just like didn't seem like he knew exactly what was going on, and he didn't react to things very well. He's just firing. He's just a loose cannon, like, I'm going, and it's just like, all right, that's great. That might be good, but sometimes it's not good because I don't know where you're going. Well, he looks much more controlled, and I think that's the environment they're putting him, and they're kind of working him into that, and some guys it takes longer with. Like Barnes hasn't played a lot of off-ball linebackers, so he's still early stages of figuring this out. Most guys play for years. Malcolm played for 4 years coming out of college. He's limited in certain areas, but he gets it. That's why he's usually in the right spot. You look at against the run, you look at Derrick Barnes, he's figuring it out, but he looks a lot faster in this game specifically. So let's take a look at this run stop. A gap for Alex that he's going to fill on this play. You can see the one gap defense that they're running. Now, what's different about this one is it's kind of going to spill over. So A gap for Alex, B gap for Aleem, and now what's going to happen is usually our edge guys, they're the contained players. So this would be Pascal. In this case, they're giving Pascal a break. So they have, or Hutchinson, so they have John Kaminsky out there to kind of squeeze us inside. Well, by how the tight ends move upfield, he's going to kind of squeeze and crash this down. Now it's going to spill out. So now he's basically in the C gap. So Barnes is going to squeeze around the outside of that. Now here's the pulling offensive lineman, which Kaminsky, because of how we attack them, creates some issue there. And then he's going to kind of sidestep that and then make a play in the box with his bigger arms. And we know that he can hit, man. We know he's a force. I wouldn't say he made the entire play, but he looked pretty good on this play as well. You're going to see him kind of fly around on this one. Jeff Okudah is going to really make the play here, if you ask me. Pre-snap, Derrick Barnes responsible for the B gap here, and they're going to pull the offensive lineman towards this side. So he's going to respond to that. So he's going to see the pull. They all kind of crash down. Kaminsky, all right, Julian's going to crash down. So now Barnes works around that. It doesn't get caught up in this mess, which is nice. He's still playing very fast, very quickly downhill, but he doesn't get caught up in that mess. Maybe a little bit steep here because Julian's going to fill that. So now he has to sidestep and bounce outside of it, which not a bad job he does, but then it's Jeff Okudah because, again, he's just rolling through blockers. Like Derrick Barnes is tough to block for tight ends and stuff like that. So this one's a little bit sped up, I would say, right? Because you want him to bounce a little bit further outside when Julian crashes down. You want him to get out here. He kind of gets locked up a little bit with the tackle, but then it's Jeff Okudah who just comes from like 10 yards out and flies down and makes this play. Let's take a look at the other angle because I want you to see Jeff on this one. Let's take a look at Jeff here. Look at this. Just flying down. Boom. That's a great play from Okudah, shutting that down. Loss of one. But I really show too much. I mean, it's just man coverage. Okudah's playing the sticks. He could be a little bit more aggressive, I think, here, but he has the opportunity to make the tackle short of the first down. He just misses the tackle on this play. We always talk about, like, okay, everybody says run defense. Well, that's front seven. That's the D-line. That's the linebackers. Yes, a lot of times it is. But it's also a lot of times secondary. It's a full team thing. So when we give credit to the run defense and you see run defense numbers look good, it's not always just the front seven. You got to give credit to the edge guys because there was a negative 6-yard run in this game, which was Will Harris that made the play and Jerry Jacobs. Here's a play where Will Harris is very impactful, especially for us where we've had a lot of issues earlier this season with things outside of the tackle box. It's very important because teams attack that a lot, not just the linebackers, especially by how we're doing things schematically and how much teams attack our cornerbacks. But let's take a look at this one by Will Harris because Will Harris basically attacks us like a linebacker. He's going to be fired up after the play. He gets up on this tight end, attacks this outside shoulder, and contains this play. That is what happens here. Now, Jerry, I think, also comes flying in, but it's him who contains this and does not allow this to get outside of him. Watch Will Harris on this one. Watch this. Boom. Starts upfield, starts inside, and then sees the pitch. Now he's going to attack this tight end on the outside, and look at him. Get free. I mean, now, of course, an edge rusher, right? You're trying to get that hand free. He's a safety. He's a cornerback, right? He's not going to do that. But he just uses force, like Deshaun Elliott. We saw him do that against Dallas as the game went on. Look how Will plays this. I mean, that is some toughness right there. He just lights up this tight end like, dude, it's not getting outside of me. I'm containing. This ain't getting outside of me. And that's exactly what happens. And then Pascal is able to kind of clean it up after that. I love that. And you're going to see Will get fired up here. Pascal's going to clean it up here outside of the tackle. We'll take a look at it. And of course, Barnes gets outside, which you would like because, again, see how fast he got outside that tight end. If that play gets outside of Will Harris, now the next level is Derek Barnes. They're just stretching out our defense. This is one of your sacks. And again, this is kind of how you get sacks against Rodgers. This is zone coverage. They can't get it out extremely quickly because you take away his first read, and then someone gets through and cleans it up. It's tough to sack this dude. Kind of a disguised cover 2 look from the defense. Not a lot of craziness. Really all that's going to happen is Kerby Joseph is going to work down to an underneath zone defender, and Will Harris is going to drop out to play the deep half, which we know he was a former safety. So that's exactly what happens. Now, it's going to be open in the seams, which you'll see, but it's very late in the play. So there's the disguise. He works down underneath. There's your 5 underneath defenders, and then you have your 2 deep. Now, you did notice kind of the jam off the line of scrimmage from Jerry Jacobs. I love that. Okudah can do the same thing. He's not going to go up here and jam a tight end, though. That doesn't make any sense. But you're going to see Jerry Jacobs, boom, he's going to stab that receiver off the line, take it away. Now, Aaron Rodgers is a little bit spooked here by Hutchinson, even though Hutchinson isn't a guy that really gets the sack. It's more Derek Barnes, and it's great timing because you could see the seams in the middle of the field open up because that's the whole of this coverage, especially when you're disguising and you're running out there. So it's a great job by Barnes because this isn't a free rush. This isn't like he just ran through and it was like, oh, you got the sack. He battled here. He battled here and actually made a really good rush on this play. So initially to stop the run, running back stays in. Watch him check the running back, lights him up, stops and starts and goes right by the offensive lineman. He worked for that sack. He didn't just get that. He worked through 2 guys and made that happen. That is a heck of an effort play and also just a bowling ball coming downhill. 4th and short. Very similar to what we just saw in Jeff Okudah, right? He kind of fell down and he gave up the big completion to the 1-yard line. So now they're going to attack Will Harris similarly. Again, both in the slot, Will and Jeff. Same basically look you're getting. 1 deep safety. Same look you're getting defensively. And there is some pressure here from Hutchinson with the bull rush on Bakhtiari. But he got the ball quick. Again, that's why it's hard to get sacks because he's going to take the matchup and throw it, especially against man. However, there would have been nowhere else he could go. If that wasn't there, he was getting sacked. He had to throw. Hutchinson forced him to throw this ball. But watch Will Harris how he plays this. I like this. This is like a vet kind of move, right? I mean, it kind of feels like that. Because, again, they're kind of squeezing and forcing this inside. Now, when he breaks outside right here, Will Harris is trying to cut that off. Okay, he wants to cut that off, get on top of that like Jeff Okudah did. Okudah was in a good spot, just didn't make a play on the ball. So he's unable to. You can see he tries to get contact there with his hands, kind of whiffs. Now he's behind and he's trailing. But watch him recover. He does, and Will Harris is fast in a straight line. I want to make sure, like, the dude is not like the fast player, but he's like a mid 4.4s kind of guy, I believe, coming out of college in straight line. He's got some straight line speed. He's a little bit clunky for a cornerback. He's not as smooth in his transition, a little more high cut, but he can run in the straight line. And I love this. He gets back in position, doesn't turn his head around, plays through the hands of Lazard, and ends up bringing it up. They called the catch initially, but it came back and said it was a pass breakup. Jerry noticed it, but that was a good play because there he kind of got behind, started to trail, but then he just played through it. And look at Hutchinson. My goodness, that's one of the best tackles. He just bowled right through the guy. It's another 3rd down that the Lions end up giving up on this play. This is a 3rd and long. Again, they're playing a lot of 3rd down coverage, a lot of man coverage on 3rd down across the board, trying to be physical off the line, all of those things in zone, things like that. Well, here they go bunch, and they bunch this up on the left, and this time they're going to get Will Harris on this deep dig route. This is Christian Watson. He is a problem with his speed. He is difficult, so this is a tough matchup already. And you're going to see they're going to rob down Deshaun Elliott underneath on this drag route for Jerry Jacobs, because if not, based on the leverage, he's going to give up this 1st down, and that's an issue. So he robs down, takes that away. Everybody else is manned up, but the issue comes into play here with Will Harris. He works inside, and then it's just little rub they kind of have here, which throws him off. Now he's trailing, and he's trying to recover, and as he does that versus a very fast receiver, we know Watson has some wheels, man. So he's trying to recover, get back into it. He's on the outside, and as Watson breaks down inside, now he's way off on the play, and it's a big chunk that they create, and he creates some space on that one. That's why I say, hey, look, it's about the DBs, because you look at those run stats, you're like, oh, this guy only had this many yards. Aaron Jones only had 25 yards rushing. Yeah, we'll take away 6 because of Will Harris and Jerry Jacobs. So this isn't the same look as we saw earlier. We'll see that. But this time they're going to stack up their receivers on the left. Now, I don't know if this was by design where Will Harris was like, hey, you're designed, you're bringing a slot cornerback blitz. It could have been. Or it also could have been he read this. I feel like it was by design. It was a slot corner blitz just because of how he's doing this pre-snap. I feel like, and the receiver's trying to point it out, and they definitely probably should have changed this up, because if Will Harris is going to blitz, that's going to be an issue, and it definitely is an issue. He could have just read it. I doubt it, though. He's rushing, I think, all the way here. I think that's what's happening, right? Because obviously there's going to be a hole. So as he rushes, though, Will Harris doesn't get blocked, so he gets contact, forces this thing to kind of swing out a little bit further, and then Jerry Jacobs, who is fantastic against receivers trying to block it. If you watch Will Harris's movement, he does look like he's blitzing the quarterback as he rushes that way initially, but then he breaks back outside. Great body control to, again, get some contact to slow this up, because, again, if this gets immediately around Will Harris, now it's a 1-on-2, and, again, if Jerry gets blocked, now you have a huge run, maybe a touchdown. So maybe they were fine with snapping it against the blitz, but Will's change of direction, and then Jerry Jacobs blowing by the blocker makes this play. Shot it to DB. Let's take a look at Jerry on this play. Watch this. He gets unblocked there, sidestepped the receivers, which is kind of all cause of Will Harris, and then he ends up helping him clean it up. -6. Shot it to the DBs. That's as good as a sack. Well, looks like a cover 6 kind of defense here, maybe more of a cover 4. I think it's more of a cover 6, though, defensively. But again, too deep, softer coverage now that it's a long-distance situation. And we're going to notice there's little communication pre-snap here with Mike Hughes. Again, watch Mike Hughes. This is really well done. I mean, he's in the hip of Sammy Watkins. I know Watkins ain't the most explosive receiver, but he's all over Sammy Watkins here one-on-one on this island. And as the Lions drop, you're going to see Will's going to kind of get up in the seam here. You get a little bit of a pressure here from Isaiah Buggs with kind of that shoulder swipe, like shoulder punch, and then he gets some pressure. Everybody else is covered underneath. They force the check down, which is exactly what you're looking for, and there you go. We'll take a look at it from the other angle just to see Isaiah Buggs. This is kind of the move from our DTs. This is kind of how they get pass rush. This is what they do. And boom, there you go. Nice move. That was quick. Here's another one of those disguises. So this is why I like Alex for one thing real quick. I do like Alex because he just gets everybody on the same page. He gets it. You see that communication. At first I'm watching this. I'm like, who in the heck is Alex talking to? Is he just making gestures? No. He's talking to Jerry Jacobs on this play. So the Lions are going to go into a disguise like Tampa 2 look. What they're going to do is they're going to drop Kerby Joseph out here to the deep middle. Look at Alex pre-snap communicating as Jerry starts to kind of creep up. Now they're dropping in a zone, which probably would have been fine. I'm sure there's certain designs where this could have got him into trouble with the hole in the defense. In a cover 2, there are holes, as we know. The Lions know what defense they're in. Alex knows what defense they're in. So there could be holes if he creeps up behind him. But Alex is like, hey, dude, get back. Look at him. He said, get back, man, get back. Get depth. And he does. He creates a little bit of depth there. Then Jerry comes up. But we're going to see Kerby Joseph here working up the seam on this play. They're both dropping out to kind of give you this look. But look at Kerby working up the seam here. Oh, that's a fantastic play. That's all that wingspan that he had out of Illinois being shown off. You can see the Lions coverage drop. So outside safety, and then here's your deep middle. So it's almost like a 3 deep look in a way. But you could see where they could get over top. They don't have another guy over there, so it's fine. They run the dig route. Alex gets proper depth, as well as, who is that? John Kaminsky? That's pretty impressive. They get great depth taking that away. Well done there, not allowing that. So you're going now over top. And then it's just Kerby Joseph. He's kind of playing around with it a little bit. You would think he has a step. This is a great ball. But Kerby Joseph using that wingspan. Maybe a little underthrown. I don't know. It's just that wingspan. Most safeties aren't doing that. What was it, 83 inches or 86 inches? Something that he had coming out of college. I mean, he had these massive arms. And now you're seeing that at the NFL level. He made plays just like this at Illinois, and here's a great example of him doing it now. That is awesome. I mean, that ball would have been a touchdown, but that was a huge save there by Kerby Joseph in disguise coverage. When you have a guy with that much length, you see it. Now, here we go. So the Lions offense turned the ball over. They threw an interception, but this is exactly what Dan was speaking to, and it's complimentary football because, right, they gave up a touchdown defensively. Then we came back and stopped the 2-point conversion. Our offense went down the field, scored a touchdown. Now we're up by 9. It's a huge... That's great, right? You finally give a touchdown defensively, so the offense responds and makes the extra point. Now you're up 9. Defensively, offense throws an interception. Defense, you're just saying, hey, let's force a field goal, right? That's the goal. It's like, let's not give up a touchdown. Do it a little bit better. They don't give up anything. They get an interception 2 plays into it. So the first one was a run stop by Aiden Hutchinson for a yard. Now you come back and you have this. Now, I don't think Rodgers knew exactly what coverage this was defensively, and the pressure on top of it, I believe from Malik McNeil, I think forces him to kind of hurry it a little bit. Maybe I could be wrong, but it doesn't look like he knows exactly what they're in. He may think he knows what they're in. As you see here, you're getting a 2 deep safety look. It kind of looks like it could be zone. It could be cover 6 defensively that has that kind of feel of it, but that's not what it's going to be. As you're going to see here, they're actually manning up Kerby Joseph on the inside slot tight end. Deshaun Elliott's actually the free safety. Now I want to clarify a little bit here because the Lions did this later in the game as well. What they're doing, seemingly, is their 2 off-ball linebackers are manning up underneath. But if it releases vertical, it looks like maybe 10-plus yards, then the safeties pick that matchup up into man coverage, and the linebackers can stay underneath. So they were doing this with their 2 high looks, with 2 safeties they feel can play off-man coverage, and with the personnel that they had, that way they could keep 2 safeties deep and disguise out of it. That's what they were doing. On this play, Alex's, slot receiver is going to stay underneath. So Elliott initially has it if he has to switch off, but it never does. So Elliott just plays deep and eventually comes over to help out Kerby. On the opposite side, the inside slot receiver releases vertical. So Derek Barnes does pass this off to Kerby Joseph, and he takes it in man cover. Really emphasize your outside corners, so your far side cornerback you see is going to give up that depth like we saw earlier. Looks like a zone look, so again, that can confuse the quarterback. Meanwhile, the short side of the field, to emphasize he's going to have to be able to man up because originally the safeties aren't going to just drop out and help into a zone. And this also takes a little bit off the plate of the linebackers. That way they're not having to chase guys around the field, which is not going to be beneficial for them because they're just going to get beat. Well, look at how this works. So there's communication here pre-snap with Rodgers from the outside slot receiver. What he's going to do is he's going to run vertical. Now, I'm going to talk about in a second if this could be zone, but Aaron Rodgers could also be looking at this thinking that Kerby Joseph is actually matched up with the outside slot and Will Harris. So if he has his outside slot receiver run a corner route and the slot cornerback, in this case Will Harris, passes that off to Kerby Joseph, now it opens a seam where Derek Barnes is basically passing it off to nobody because you have two vertical releases right next to each other. One's running a corner route, one's running a post, and he looks off the left safety, and now that's open where he doesn't even have to see this throw. Unfortunately, that's not the case. And I can't say for sure, but it does look like there's a chance that Kerby actually throws off Rodgers here. It looks like he's looking at the outside slot, which could give the Rodgers that indicator that he's going to switch off once he gets by Will Harris. Instead, though, when the ball snapped, it almost looks like he turns his head back to the inside slot, in this case to the tight end, which could have confused Rodgers pre-snap. Now, if this is a zone coverage and Kerby Joseph is in a deep zone, if this is Tampa 2, you could see how this would cause problems, because then it would get Derek Barnes one-on-one. It would create problems because Deshaun Elliott may open up and create that more separation for this pass to be thrown, but that does not happen. As he goes upfield, again, this turns into man. It's not zone. So let's take a look here. As you see, Rodgers, first thing he's going to do is hold this safety. He starts to open up that way when Rodgers comes back because next thing he looks at is out here. Then all of a sudden there's a space one-on-one with Derek Barnes, and that's the matchup they want, Robert Tonyan. But that's not the case. It's actually man coverage. So as he looks there and comes back, here's the pressure. Now he kind of has to hurry up. Do I take the sack? Do I get on my hands? What do I do? Pressure can be a killer. And at this point, Kerby Joseph actually has man on this tight end. He's been watching the whole way, and he just undercuts this route. So I see it like, oh, wow, I mean, there's been a lot of talk about this play, but that's what happened on this play. So Kerby just undercuts this and plays that fantastically. You could see how that happened. You could see how they were trying to create an issue for our defense, but in reality, he actually created an issue for their defense because we disguised that out of it. It looked like in a way he kind of no-looked that pass. I don't think that he did, but you can see where his eyes are. It looks like he's looking to try to move Kerby Joseph, but again, he's a man, so he's not even paying attention to Rodgers' eyes. You can see where his eyes are, then he throws back middle. It looks like a no-look pass, right? Because he's not even looking there. He's just assuming Kerby's going to open up. Does not happen, and he's playing man and makes a heck of a snag. Another third down, because what was great about the third down is we got off the field when we needed to, when it was necessary. Towards the end of the game, we got off the field, but we did have issues early. This one looks like a cover 4 type of drop defensively here, and that's where the issue comes into play, because you're probably like, why in the world would they have Julian one-on-one with the slot? I would be like, what are we doing? I'd say the same exact thing. Again, that 12 personnel, we've already seen them line up like this, so that's what they're doing defensively. You can see them drop out, and that's where the issue comes into play here, because there's then a hole, because the outside receiver has the vertical release. This linebacker is one of the 3 underneath defenders in the cover 4 defense, and now there's the hole where Kerby Joseph has a ton of ground that he has to cover there, and there's the completion. This one was Lee McNeil and Isaiah Buggs written all over it, man. I mean, this is what that was on this play. So first off, Isaiah Buggs, he's going to get head up here with the center, and the A and the B gap, basically. He almost takes up 2 gaps because he's not getting moved at all by one guy, and that allows Derek Barnes to fill in here this A gap. Everybody's able to fill down quickly, and then Lee McNeil sheds right between in his gap on this B gap. He sheds both of them, just splits them, and now all of a sudden here comes the cutback. Barnes had a free lane to fill, so he's not going to go that direction. Here's the cutback, and Lee McNeil is filling here between the two, so there's no movement. Now he's forced to kick it out even further outside. You can see Hutch is in battling in here, and then Mike Hughes is able to kind of, just swing it down and limit that to a 2-yard pickup. This one's kind of cool, though. I will show this one because this shows some of the athleticism for Pascal. He's a big dude. It's kind of an athletic play, though. So you're actually going to get man coverage across the board defensively here. You're going to get a cover 1 blitz, 1 deep. You're going to get the blitz in the inside from these two. But what you can see is then pre-snap, okay, you're looking at this saying, all right, look, they put their tight end on Okuda. So let's say he takes Okuda, and this is man coverage, and Derek Barnes is then on the running back. Well, that's a lot of space for him to cover. So that's the first thought I think you have. Man, okay, man, and then to cover 1 safety, because that's what we've been doing. That's what we've been doing. But let's take a look. That's not actually going to happen. What's going to happen is, I think the first thing you see is that Barnes blitzes. Okay, now you're seeing Barnes and Alex blitz. And they only bring 5 rushers because what they're actually going to do is they're going to drop out their edge rusher. Rodgers doesn't notice that from his point of view. He's just seeing, look, both off-ball linebackers are blitzing. That guy was probably in assignment with A.J. Dillon. The cornerback is taken by the tight end. That running back's going to be uncovered. So his hot read then is likely running back. He doesn't even look there before he throws it. But Pascal drops out and actually covers it up. I don't know if he even made a play on the ball. He was in a pretty good spot for a defensive end that's like 270 pounds or whatever Pascal is. Well done there by Pascal. Just a good athletic play there. It's pretty good. Kuda actually ends up missing with kind of the hand there, the right hand, and now he finds himself trailing. And I think he does a good job of trying to play through the ball on this one, but you can see a little bit of separation created there by Alan Lazard at the top. And I love the way, though, that he responds on the 2-point conversion and ends up breaking up the pass. We're going to take a look at that. This is the very next play. But you see how that happens, how he gets behind a little bit. And not much separation created, just a really good ball. 2-point try. Now, we've seen Jerry in the game. He's made some good plays, but 2-point try, what do? They take Jerry out of the game, and they put Mike Hughes back at outside corner. Why? Well, first off, just take a look at how he moves here. This play is probably never designed to actually go to him, but yeah, short area movement, that's where Mike Hughes thrives. And I get the sense that in a way the Lions a little bit are not only rotating, but they're understanding here like, okay, look, short yardage situations, who has better movement skills? Jerry's physical, he can press, but better movement skills in case they have to switch, probably Mike Hughes, and that's what they do. I love that. But Jeff Okudah here in the slot, here, he's going to jam, boom, right there, and kind of take him off the line to gain, which is the end zone, and then he gets back into it, again, plays through his arms and breaks it up. I don't know if he caught that if he would have scored, but Okudah played that tremendously. Pull their left guard across here, and they're going to have DB shoot down to the A gap. He's going to kind of stick with the polar through his gap, and then Alex is going to be filling in secondly, but Aleem McNeil here, just walling him up, locking him out, and then kind of slowing down this run for A.J. Dillon, giving time for Julian off the backside to get into it, and another disguised coverage here defensively from the Lions. And again, they cover it up originally well, which is good. The issue is that the play goes on and on as we don't get really any pressure, and because of that, it ends up opening up space in zone. And that happens really in any coverage, but especially in zone because there's always holes in zone. The longer you have, they're going to find the holes. So in this play, the Lions do the same thing, kind of disguise it. They bring down Kerby Joseph here into that Tampa 2 look, and they're going to drop out Will Harris. I love the safety movement. This is where I talk about safety movement, and I said at the bye week why I want to see more of it, because I watched last year's Packers game, and it looked just like this. So I'm so glad we're showing this again. But, again, we always adapt to different teams. So 2 high safeties is more so what we do against Green Bay. I love to see that. Also, you're going to get Okudah to jam here at the bottom. Same thing with Jerry. They covered this up really well initially, but the play just goes on and on. Eventually, the tight end's going to break open over the middle as Kerby kind of leaves that space. You're going to see him kind of leave here. He's going to sit down. They cover it up well. Well done there. Will's on this one. They cover it up originally, but then it's going to break back open here, as we can see, as Rodgers just keeps the play alive, and then Tunyon just sits down in a space over the middle. Good coverage here, right? Well done doing the coverage that you're running, right? These guys, they understand it. Mike Hughes, Jerry Jacobs, Will Harris, they get it. He's in the slot. They're going to go back to their cover 3 roots a little bit here like we saw at the beginning. Cover 3 sky coverage here with Elliott underneath. Mike Hughes, my gosh, dude, just look at the guy's feet. I mean, just look at it. Like where Mike Hughes had issues last week, he could beat over top, he could be at the catch point, but his feet are incredible. His ability to break down on a break is odd. Look at this. My goodness, like he is in that hip immediately. There's just not much time there. But the Lions do this well. You can see Will gets physical. He basically shoved their slot receiver on the ground, so it takes him out of the play. And now Rodgers has to come back down to this check down, and we see Deshaun Elliott's there to kind of clean it up. As we know, C.J. Moore is now into the game. I don't know if we showed it earlier, but Kerby Joseph went out. C.J. Moore is into the game. It was on that man look where the safety was matched up with the inside slot. So he's into the game now. You're going to notice it on this play. But you're going to get this cover 1 robber again from the Lions defensively. Here's the 4-man rush. Look at the spin by Hutchinson, by the way. That is nasty. If we could just get some sort of inside pressure. Jerry Jacobs, he's going to be physical here, but look at the recovery by Jacobs. I mean, we talk about he was one of the best cornerbacks in football in terms of separation allowed. So tiny amount of separation that he allowed. Watch him here on the top. So initially you're thinking, oh, he's beat. Look at him up the top, right? He doesn't get contact, but his balance is what stands out. He's so low to the ground. He reminds me of like a running back playing corner, because even though he's reaching and lunging, he doesn't get to the point where he's like, oh, I lost my balance. Now I got, like, he's not like a lot of cornerbacks in that sense. Same thing with Mike in a way. He's just a little bit more stocky built. But look at this. Doesn't get any contact, but he still gets right in the dude's hip. There is zero separation here. I understand we're robbing our safety down Elliott to help out this because he's forcing it inside, more so I think with Will Harris, but there is no space Where do you throw this football? I mean, Jerry is all over him. And then Mike Hughes at the bottom corner, and this is why I like the mix. Okuda's not even on the field. And I don't have an issue with that rotation, keeping him fresh. We know Okuda has had some issues with that. You can see good coverage here from Mike Hughes over top. Now, that's not as much of a threatening receiver over top as some teams have. And then it's about this deep slot route. Now, you've seen this with Mike Hughes in the slot. It's tough for a slot corner to cover all this ground. It's almost impossible for a guy to cover all this ground running across the field. So now it's on up to your safeties. Well, Elliott's is going to be robbing down here to help out on this dig route. And now it's out here with CJ Moore. I think for CJ, you need him to crash. I think you need him to crash here and try to cut this off. He's kind of playing on top of it, but you can see the separation that's still created there. The one thing is the play just goes on way too long, and it's incomplete, but the play goes on way too darn long. But for the two outside guys, good coverage. Hutch is going to go to the spin move. I like it later because then he throws to an inside spin, which is just even more nasty. Boom, there's a spin, and yeah, we just can't get enough. Alex actually shot down there, got us a little bit of something, and he ended up forcing that incomplete pass. Here the Lions are going to go to like a cover 2 drop defensively, and usually you're thinking of that like just this underneath coverage, but the Lions are going to be playing more so of the sticks here, so they're really getting a lot of depth on this one. And again, they covered up well initially, good zone coverage across the board, but Rodgers eventually takes off, and then he ends up juking out 2 guys at once, bop right there, and he picks up a first down at like 3rd and 17. You got to get off the field there. And a good thing is that initial coverage wasn't bad. Someone's just got to go make a play in the open space. I mean, that's just what it is. Either got to get a sack, someone's got to make a play in open field. Something has to happen there. But the good thing is that coverage actually held up pretty well in the back end. Now, when you take a look, Hutchinson, I think, is going to go to like the reverse spin, which is just disgusting. Let's take a look at him on the outside. Look at this inside. Oh my gosh, it's nasty. He gets a little bit of push, but he's going to end up getting double teamed there by the right guard, and the running back's going to, of course, go out and help. But the issue is that across the board, you really don't get anybody else that's winning on this one. They're also leaving in 6, 7 guys to protect basically on this play. You got a one-on-one here with Bugs, not winning. You're not really getting a win here, Benito, and then Pascal doesn't really win either, so he takes off. That's the thing with Pascal. It's my one little thing I'm going to keep an eye on going forward. Not saying he can't get better here. I think Pascal's way better in the interior. I get it. I mean, who else would you put on it? If this is going to be your personnel set, you can't put Isaiah Buggs at defensive end. I mean, that's not going to work. So that's the only thing. I think he's way better in the interior. That's where he got pass rush in college. They're also using a tight end to help chip him, so it's going to be difficult no matter what. But he doesn't have a lot of ways doing on the outside, at least what I saw coming out of Kentucky. Either way, though, yeah, you can see what happens. One of those screens that they're going to throw this time at Jerry, and Jerry told Rodgers, hey, man, you got to stop testing me. Well, here's an example. They run that same type of screen look, and Jerry sheds it, gets up on him, so he actually draws the offensive PI, still limits it. You can see the celebration afterwards, kind of pointing him out, I think, like, hey, don't test me. But he still forced the OPI, which is actually even better than the stop that he had. But I just love the way that he attacks those corners. They're actually going to bring a blitz here, like a cover 2 blitz, I believe, on this play, and maybe more of a cover 6, but more of a cover 2 blitz, I think. You bring 5 rushers, being Will, so there's only 4 technically underneath defenders here. Alex Anzalone races out here to take away the slot. Then they come back middle. Derek Barnes has good zone depth, and then it's the pressure that ends up cleaning this up and forcing him to throw away. So good job by Barnes getting good zone depth on his side. So Alex, that's a lot of ground for him to cover, but he races out there to cut that off. Jerry's in a good spot in zone coverage, and then on this side, Barnes has good depth on the tight end, and then he throws it away because of the extra rusher that was brought. You're actually going to give a PI. I think I may have missed this play, but I do want to show it. So this time, Jerry's going to get called for a pass interference. Now, going back to last year, he really didn't get called for a lot of flags, which was cool because he plays so physical, but yet he doesn't get flagged very often. Here he is. Same look defensively, right? Slot corners, boom. Both of them are going to engage with the press off the line. You're going to see them. Both are going to get physical here. And they were kind of letting us play in this game. They're calling a flag at the 14-yard line, which is weird. Not weird. It's just like, I can't see it, to be honest with you. I think on the replay he did tug a little bit. You could see it maybe early, but they call it right here. So there must have been some sort of tug that I just can't see by this part of the film. I just can't see whether or not he actually tugged the receiver on that play, but they ended up throwing a flag, and that's where the ball was moved to. The pass was incomplete. Jerry was all over him, but they ended up calling a flag there. You see Jeff is in a really good spot this time with Lazard. He's kind of just in the hip of Alan Lazard on this time. He's not really on top of the route here, and he gets physical off the line, so you're going to see that. Jeff is one of the best, I think, press corners. Young press corners for sure. He is fantastic. He was really good coming out of college even with that. But good coverage across the board for the most part, but they end up getting him with a PI from the 14. But what's huge about this is that, okay, right there they're already in field goal range, right? I mean, they were already in field goal range before the flag. So if they don't get that, yeah, they kick a field goal. Now we get it to a 3rd down. Jerry said, don't test me. Rodgers clearly wasn't listening because on a 3rd down and goal, 3rd down and just a few, They test him again. And what does he do? He responds, breaks it up at the catch point, maybe a little bit more on the receiver than him, but it's still a field goal. So even with the PI, way to bounce back, because usually they are thinking, oh, we're giving up a touchdown. We just put it at the 14. You still give up a field goal. There's really no difference. The only difference is, if anything, they wasted more time, which is probably better for you because, you're trying to limit the time that they have the football. So I guess it was a shorter field goal, if anything, but you would probably expect that he makes it anyway indoor. Point is, though, you see Jerry here and his break. Boom. That was a very intense seatbelt right there, by the way. Did you guys see the force that he had on that seatbelt? Hey, I'm just saying, don't put your finger in there, First play we have is man-to-man across the board. Safety comes down on the tight end. You can kind of see how that one's set up pretty easily on there. They pick up 5 yards to start off this drive. They waste about 28 seconds. But you can see how this one's set up. Here comes the motion. Okay, Alex has the running back. Safety's actually manned up on a tight end as we were earlier in the game. So I think the motion helped them kind of decipher that a little bit here. So they know we're manned up. Barnes doesn't really help us a ton on that one. And we give up 5 yards to start the possession. Everyone look defensively here from the Lions. There's your rat underneath there and Derek Barnes. Everybody else is manned up across the board. Jeff Okudah. Running back is taken away by Alex Anzalone. He looks pretty good getting over there. Everybody else is manned up, as you can see. Will Harris with the press. Jeff with the press off the line. Little bit softer coverage here on the outside, but it's still man. Just seeing ball and man, which is difficult coverage to play, but from, being on the wide side of the field, that's how Jerry's going to play this one. Everybody else, though, is in man coverage. Here comes Hutchinson. Here comes the pressure from the interior, which is big by Lee McNeil in this one. You force him outside, and they end up throwing an incomplete pass. So good job there getting some pressure. At 25, it's 3rd down and 5. We're going to force a 4th down here. Chris Board is now into the game. You saw them communicating pre-snap. Looks like a cover 1 type of blitz look, right? Linebacker goes down. Elliott could take the running back, and then you have, Alex Anzalone taking the tight end. Now you got 1 deep. That's what it looks like could be a cover 1 blitz, but that's not what's going to happen. Chris is going to show and drop, and then Alex actually has a tight end, but he's going to end up kind of rushing at the end because the tight end doesn't come out. But he's going to show and then drop out. So you're kind of just wasting that guy in a sense because of how you're showing it pre-snap. So Board drops out, takes the running back out of the backfield. Everybody else is manned up. You can see Jerry how physical he is off the line here. There's no call, though. He gets away with being very physical, very well at doing that. And then you have man everywhere else. And you're going to see Hutchinson is going to hit that spin move. Woof, gosh, man. Look, if he had to hold that ball a little longer, that's disgusting. Now, of course, the issue for the Lions here is you're already creating, separation. Because even though he's still manning up, he has to get all the way over here. And that's a long way for him to go with him getting a head start. So you're basically conceding these 3 yards on this play. But good job by Board getting into this, stripping it. Brings up a 4th down and 2, which I think is all your Lions are looking for. It's just, hey, get him in a 4th down situation. Let's play for 1 down here. With that, though, look at the spin move. Oh, my gosh. That thing was disgusting. I wish he would have had to hold the ball. Hey, if that guy was not there, he's getting sacked for sure. But now it's 4th down and 2. The field here. They're going to man up across the board. They're going to press a line. They only need 2 yards. You have Okudah in the inside slot here. He's in a really good position. Really in his hip, but then he loses the ball at the catch point. I think the issue is he has to recover pretty quickly on this one. Then he's trailing. So we'll take a look everywhere else. You get the jam here from Jerry on this play. You got Will on top of Alan Lazard. He's in a really good position there. I think he was kind of expecting that because they were doing a lot of this. They love to go through receivers from one side. We've seen it. It's hard to throw a screen against this, so I think the Lions are combating that by let's press the line everybody, because if they throw this darn little screen where you have one guy deep, then you're going to pick it up. So we press up everywhere. And Okudah, who misses off the line, now he's trailing. He's trying to recover, get back into the play. And he would if the ball was where it was normally supposed to be. He actually overshoots him and throws it behind him. Maybe he meant to do that. I don't know. But because of that, Okudah's trying to race back into it. And now he's behind the play. Then he strips it back out, which I love the effort. And it goes out of bounds. And I just love that effort, though. The intensity that they were playing with. He gave it up, but he kept battling. Elliott flying over there. Everybody's battling. There's some pressure here on the inside, so he kind of just flicks it out there. I don't know if he meant to throw it up there. He may have. Great play by the receiver. First down, these are the last 4 plays of the game. We got Okudah one-on-one. We're going man coverage again across the board. Tight end on Elliott. The receiver falls down here on the slot on Will Harris. That's the second time that's happened. You got Jerry Jacobs on good coverage on top of this route. And then Jerry Jacobs, now Jeff Okudah's a little bit underneath this route. It would have been very tough to test this. He opens him up. Been very, very tight if you'd tested it. He could have, but he decided to just kind of overthrow it and throw it out of bounds. So now it makes it 2nd and 10. 2 deep safeties. They man up across the board on 2nd down and 10. Everybody else is man. and you can see this Lions went basically all man at the end of this game. Point out, this looks like the man that the Lions have already done in this game, where basically the safety is lined up with the inside slot. He's mashed up there, but since his route stays underneath and kind of just hooks underneath, the linebacker that's in the underneath zone coverage, in this case Derek Barnes as that rat linebacker, just sticks with it, and now the safety can kind of be free a little bit. But if it gets beyond him, now he picks it up in man coverage. So everybody's kind of on an island on the left side. They bring a 4-man rush here, and Jerry Jacobs, he threw that thing quickly. I guess he was just, I feel like a lot of these throws, Rodgers just kind of was like, this is the matchup I like, I'm putting it up there. Jerry said to stop testing him. This thing wasn't even open, but for some reason he threw it. Jerry got on top of the route, and he basically just squeezed it off towards the sideline. There's really no contact there. He's just in the way of the route, right? You're on top of the route. You're basically running the route for him. There's nowhere for him to run to. You can't just run through Jerry Jacobs and be like, that's a defensive penalty. He's in a good spot defensively. He got on top of it, and there's nowhere for you to throw that football. Had no chance. Good job by Jerry Jacobs. Don't test that man, but he keeps doing it. He didn't even look. He already knew he was testing him. And CJ Moore, who had to step in for the game, as we know, ends up breaking up this play. Right here he is, the deep safety. Lions are doing something interesting here. They're kind of switching a lot of these routes, it looks like. So it looks like what they're doing is the cornerback is passing anything off that drags underneath to the linebackers. Both cornerbacks do that. If it drags underneath, if it breaks underneath, linebackers, you take it, because this is a 3rd down and 10. That's what it looks like they're doing here. And then at the same time, if the linebackers have a guy that releases vertical, he's passing it up to the safeties. So you can see they pass it up to the safeties. So I think that's what they're doing. There's a lot of switching going on this play, and what that ultimately does is it switches it on to CJ Moore. So let's take a look. Here he is working on the slot. Alex going to pass it off, take away this drag route, so now it's a one-on-one with CJ, and shot to CJ, who had checked in the game a couple drives earlier, jumping and breaking this underneath. That's a great play by CJ Moore. With all the switching that they're doing, there was no breakdown in communication. He was on top of it, and he made a fantastic, timely play, and that leads us to 4th down, where for some reason, after all day of testing him, and really only having one positive result, he tries to go back at Jerry Jacobs one more time. I don't get it, but he did. Now Jerry's in the slot. It's a 4th down and 10. The Lions bring a 4-man rush on this play, and this is where we talk about guys that played last year, that had opportunities, that were in these big moments, the Jerry Jacobs, the Charles Harris, the guys that are now in these opportunities in these positions, the CJ Moores. This is where you say, okay, you had that experience last year, Alex. Now we need you to come through in these big moments this year. And this was a perfect example to me of doing that. Jerry is in good coverage. He's physical, but there is no flag that's called on this one. I think there could have been, but there wasn't. Within 5 yards, he's very physical. Grabbed a little bit, I think, on this one right here. He did tug a little bit, but there was no call. I guess because he didn't really throw it toward. Maybe if he would have thrown it closer, there would have been call, but there was no call. And then at the same time, Charles Harris came through in the clutch. He didn't seem to play a ton in this game, but this was the moment that you needed someone to get some sort of pressure. And right there he does. Rodgers panics a little bit and kind of just strings it off his back foot, doesn't really wait for anything to break open, and at the perfect time, the guy that you had last year in Jerry Jacobs, who was in some of those tough moments, blew a couple coverages late, he does really well here, and then also the coverage here from the rush here from Charles Harris at the perfect time, and also Will Harris is on the field. These are guys that had opportunities in big moments last season, and now they're making the play when it counted the most, and as we said, they deserved it. They needed to make this play. I think they needed it for themselves, for confidence that, look, we can do this. All the stuff that's going on, we're going to go out there and finish this thing, and right there they did. The Lions defense won this thing on their own terms, and they needed to do that because we've struggled with that going back to last season. But look at that perfectly timed left-handed stab by Okudah to shut off this route on the opposite side. The Lions defensive backs and Aaron Glenn played this game exactly how I felt like he visioned it coming into the year. He said that they wanted to be physical within 5 yards because teams were not doing that, and that was their advantage defensively. He broke this all down before the season started. They signed guys so that they could press, be physical, the Elliott's, having the Jerry Jacobs, the Mike Hughes, the Jeff Okudahs, and this game looked like it was under the form of what Aaron Glenn visioned that this defense would look like, mixing in different coverage zone drops and disguises based on the team schematically. This looked like an Aaron Glenn game by the last 5-6 plays. Man, press. We're winning on our terms. Each game will be different, but it did feel like exactly what Aaron Glenn visioned coming into it. That was Lions defense. We will dive into the Lions offense at some point. That's the plan, and we'll take a look at it. Maybe less plays because it wasn't as exciting as the defense was, but it was great to see the defense make the big-time plays in this game and go get out of here with a dub. So appreciate everybody that's tuned into this one. If you made it to this point, please comment down below a hot dog. With that, you could also check out Liquid IV. If you made it this far, you might as well check it out. You made it this far, you're invested. I appreciate it. You might as well check out some Liquid IV because you know what? Not this. check out this. Well, they're the same. This kind is my favorite flavor. I like this one too. These are my 2 favorite. But this one, lemon lime, stop it. I'm just saying, I don't know how to explain it. It is fantastic, but it's water with benefits. That's what I'm calling it. That's how I'm explaining it. Water with benefits. Hydration multipliers. Immune support. Energy. Water with multipliers. Wait, no, that's not what I said. Water with benefits. With benefits. Has a little bit of carbs in it. I know I got to worry about my carbs, but it's really not that bad. It tastes good too. Lemon lime is where it's at. Use promo code DoseOfDion, all capital, no spaces, no numbers, no dots. Just DoseOfDion. You get 20% off now. They upped the discount code, so I appreciate them. So check it out. Link is in the description. Aside from that, thank you, Brad, for watching, and I'm out.